Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. And today we have to talk about Atari Corporation and their relevance, or I should say lack of relevance, in the year 2021. Now, before we go any further, please pardon my appearance. I am filming this video after 1 a.m. now on a weekday. So you can imagine I probably look very tired. I look very drained. And a couple of hours ago, I was at the gym, no less. So this is going to be one of the last videos I produce before going off to bed, waking up early at 5 o'clock in the morning, and starting my day doing this same thing all over again. So I hope you are getting something out of these videos that I do produce. So Atari Corporation, for those unaware, was a very relevant company back in the 1970s and 1980s. Let's be realistic. Pretty much when people think of video games, before Nintendo, they always thought about Atari. And I want to be very clear about this, because every time I talk about Atari, somebody comes into the comment section and they cuts me up and they state, Sean, you don't understand how many people have an emotional attachment to Atari. That's great. I don't dispute that. Spoiler alert, at the age of 5, the very first video game system that I ever owned was an Atari VCS. An Atari 2600 was given to me and my sister when I was 5 years old. My sister's 8 years older than me. She was 13 at the time. And I played it till my fingers bled. My favorite Atari game was Asteroids. And then after that would be the Activision game Pitfall. I loved Pitfall. To this day, I still enjoy playing Pitfall whenever I can. So I do have a fondness and an attachment to Atari. The problem that I have with a lot of the people trying to defend Atari in the year 2021, going into 2022, is number one, a lot of the vintage games are a horrible financial investment. The demographics are just not there. Yes, I know there are certain Atari games that still carry a premium. There's certain games that sell for hundreds. There's certain games that sell for thousands of dollars that were released for the Atari 2600 and other Atari consoles out there. I don't dispute that. The problem is, if you look 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future, younger gamers, younger collectors who would be gravitating to these markets are not going after vintage pre-Nintendo games. They're going after Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and the like. And honestly, with all the quote-unquote allegations of fraud and everything else that is happening in that speculative market right now, we don't even know where that's going to end up 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. But when it comes to Atari, if you are investing in those particular games and systems with the intent of holding those particular games and systems for 10, 20, 30 years, thinking you're going to be able to flip them back in the marketplace for a profit, you're 100% wrong. I encourage you to look at the demographics. They're just not there. Now, how does that tie in to what we're going to be talking about in this video? Well, I just want to make that very clear, because if you're going to be talking about certain products that Atari is releasing right now and justifying their expense by comparing it to the overall video game collecting market that has been opened up in front of us with the advent of limited games, with the advent of limited run games specifically, and also WATA games, VGA, all these grading companies that are coming into this market, please understand Atari's relevance in the year 2021 and beyond is limited. Now, going back to talking about nostalgia, talking with you guys about the fact that I was weaned on an Atari 2600 back at the age of 5, so I do have an attachment to it. I get where you guys are coming from. You need to understand also, in the year 2021, the Atari Corporation that exists today is not the same company that you knew back in the 1980s, if you're my age or older, if you were alive back then. Let's be realistic. Atari Corporation, the original Atari Corporation, was started by Nolan Bushnell in the 1970s in his daughter's bedroom. He later sold the company to Warner Communications for $100 million, and we all know how this ends. Warner Communications pretty much ran the company into the ground and brought about the great vintage video game home market collapse back in 1982, 1983. The market didn't recover until Nintendo came along with their wonderful Famicom computer system that was released in Japan with mass success, and they went through hell to market it for the North American audience, and finally it took off by 1987. So the rest is history. Pretty much Atari was left in the dust. Now, that doesn't mean that Atari went by the wayside. There have been other owners that came along and ran the company even further into the ground. If you don't believe me, look at the clusterfuck the Atari Jaguar was in the early 1990s. Jack Tramiel came along and said, hey, I ran Commodore into the ground, therefore I'm qualified to run Atari into the ground again. And he took the helm and pretty much he put into production two systems. If you don't know the history, there was the 32-bit Atari Panther and there was the 64-bit Atari Jaguar. The Atari Jaguar won out. They put that into production. And aside from Tempest 2000 and a few other cool games, the system overall sucked. I'm sorry to disappoint a lot of you out there, but let's be realistic. Outside of Tempest 2000, outside of Alien vs. Predator, there were just really very few good games that could compete with Nintendo or Sony coming out of the gate, or even Sega at that particular time. So as history would repeat itself, the Jaguar did not develop a core following at that time. And even utilizing gimmicky marketing of do the math, it just couldn't come out of the gate and realistically be expected to compete with like the Nintendo 64, the Sony PlayStation, or even on a lower scale, the Sega Saturn, which at that particular time obviously was going to die a slow death at the hands of the Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64. So the Atari Jaguar was launched in 1993. Pretty much by 1995, it was pretty much already dead, and Atari was left decimated. Now to this day, obviously, the Atari Corporation still survives, meaning there is a company out there, I think Infogrames now owns the rights to Atari and their back catalog of games. And every once in a while, they try to relaunch the brand. They try to do something, whether it's through Atari flashback plug-and-play systems or items of that nature, or the NFT fiasco that they got themselves involved in. Well, now they're back releasing limited versions of certain Atari 2600 games that were never before released. And now that we're 7 minutes into the video, if you want to go to the website, www.atarixp.com, you're going to be able to order, if you so choose, either standard editions or deluxe limited editions of the following three games for play on the Atari 2600 VCS system. The three games are Saboteur, Aquaventure, and Yar's Return. Yar's Return should not be confused with Yar's Revenge. Now, the standard editions cost $49.99, and they're pretty much being printed to demand, meaning as long as people are ordering them, Atari Corporation is going to continue to make those standard releases that are selling for $49.99. Where it gets interesting is Atari Corporation, or present-day Atari Corporation, is taking a playbook from limited run games. And what they are doing is they are releasing deluxe limited edition versions of each of those games that are selling for $149.99. Let me state that number again. Each one of those games is going to run you roughly $150, making them very expensive for an Atari game. Making matters a little bit more fun, Atari is also going to be limiting the amount of those limited editions that they are releasing into the open market to 1,983 copies each. And if you're wondering where they got the number 1,983, it's supposed to correspond to the year 1983, which Atari wants you to believe would be the year that these particular games would be released onto the open market if good old Warner Communications didn't run the whole company into the ground back then. Now, I'm not going to get into how plausible that is, but make no mistake, what I do want to put forth in this video is to give you my thoughts on these limited edition games for $150 a piece. Again, if you want to get the standard editions at $49.99 a piece, all three of them is only going to set you back $150. It's up to you if you want to spend $150 to get all three of those particular games that Atari has made available on this particular website. And again, I'm not sponsoring this website at all. I just want you to use your own judgment. The website is www.atarixp.com. Most people are really interested in my thoughts on the limited deluxe versions that are selling for $149.99. Well, my opinion on this is twofold. First, if you're somebody out there, you really love Atari, you really want to connect with this stuff, by all means, maybe $150 a piece for one of these games is worth it to you. Maybe you just want to put it in a room, you want to put it on a shelf, and you really have a thing for Atari, and the $150 is not a lot to you. That's fine. By all means, you do you. In fact, I will tell you, if this catches on, Atari's going to make more releases in the same vein. So it would be cool, I'll even admit this, it would be cool if somebody out there wants to start a collection of these and they actually get the whole set, and like, let's say every quarter, Atari releases 2, 3, or 4 new games to choose from, and you end up getting a set of limited deluxe editions of these games. That would be really cool to see them all on a shelf. 100% honesty there. However, as an investment, I don't really see a market available where somebody can buy a $150 copy of this game and easily flip it into the secondary market for more money than that at present time. If these particular games were being released at a $90 or even a $100 price point, I may change my tune on that assessment. But looking at how these games are being sold for $150, I think that is a very high price to pay for a vintage Atari game that really isn't even original. I mean, if you look on the open market, you can see other versions of Saboteur that are available in physical form. You can even see some of these other games that you can download or play in another form if you really just want to play the game. None of these games are truly unique. None of them have never not been released before. And I want to make that very clear. So what I am saying is, if you are somebody who really loves Atari, money really doesn't matter, you're not trying to invest in these items, by all means, go ahead and order them if that's what you want to do. But from an investment standpoint, I really see the market for these to be quite limited. When we compare something like this that's being offered by the current owners of Atari versus that of a certain Nintendo Switch game that's being released by Limited Run Games that never got its due diligence or credibility on the open market, I think there's going to be more interest in the Nintendo Switch game that's being released by Limited Run than that of any of these Atari games. So you're probably better off putting your money in that particular product rather than coming over here and trying to gauge the success of the vintage, mass-produced scarcity Atari 2600 market in the year 2021 and beyond. So that's my advice to you. Now, I want to make one caveat in this particular video. One of the things that even I was thinking of doing, I was honestly thinking of going onto that website and I was going to order a copy of each of those limited edition games, and I was going to send them to VGA just to get graded, because I think they would look cool on a shelf. I mean, even myself, I would like to have that in a game room or something of that nature. But when I add up all the fees of buying the games, having them shipped to me, hoping they arrive in immaculate condition, because we know going through the mail in the year 2021, whether they ship via the post office, UPS, or FedEx, that's a major risk. And then having to pay to ship them to VGA, having to pay the grading fees, waiting for them to return. I honestly figured it out. I would pretty much have close to $300 invested in each one of those games. So as a financial person, when I sit here and take a step back, do I really want to spend close to $1,000 for free limited edition Atari games to get graded and put in a shelf? The answer is no. So that's how I pretty much analyzed this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. You may agree with this video. You may disagree. It'll be very interesting, though, to read the comments on this particular one. Thanks, guys. I got to go to bed. Good night.